Hey everybody, this is Robert from Black Belt Gaming. Hopefully you've watched the previous video. I'm going to try a solo playthrough of Fury of Dracula. You can see in this picture here on the box, Dracula's on his coach there. His driver's cracking his whip, trying to speed the horses along. The hunters are hot on his trail. So Dracula's not really out to tear apart these hunters. He's actually running for his life. So what is this game about? Well, it's a game where these hunters are trying to track down Dracula and kill him, and I think it's actually a sequel to the novel. So let me look back at the kind of the introductory text and refresh myself with what's going on with the setting here. Alright, it says that it's 1898. 8 years ago, the most evil Count Dracula traveled to London in a bid to create an empire of undead. In this, he was stopped by a small band of God-fearing people who managed to thwart his plans and destroy him within the very shadow of Castle Dracula itself. Or so they thought. Somehow, the Lord of Vampires has survived to plot his terrible revenge upon an unsuspecting living world. And now, nearly a decade later, he is abroad once more spreading his vile plague. This time, however, he has learned from his past mistakes and is acting with even greater cunning than before. Many scientific men do not understand the terrible force behind the recent spat of mysterious deaths, but there are a few of this, a handful. 4 have joined together once more, bound by oath to finish properly a job started 8 years ago. This time Count Dracula will be destroyed. But Dracula is no fool. He will not be an unwitting target this time. There is an old score to settle, and the Count has vowed that the mortal fools shall know the fury of Dracula. Alright, so I've got the hunters down here on the side of the board. On their different setups here, you can see their hit points. She's got 8. They all share the same cards when they start. They've got a combat card, dodge, punch, and escape. So they're all going to be given those, and then they each have a couple of special abilities which will come into play from time to time, and we'll cover those as we go along. I will be taking on the role of Count Dracula. Here's my health sheet. I've got about 15 hit points, so to speak. I've got some combat cards that I can use, including things like claws and mesmerize, fangs, strength, turn into a bat, escape as a man, turn into mist, and dodge. And I also have some interesting powers here that I can use to help me while I'm running around on the board. So if you'll check out the backs, not that one, well, I guess it's just one of these. One of these is kind of disguised like the backs of the other location cards to throw off the players, as you can see here. This can actually go on the trail. We'll see how that works as we go along. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and begin the playthrough here and try things out and see how it works. What we do first here with Dracula is he's going to start in Paris. And right now I want all the hunters to know that. So they're going to start heading that way. I need to get Dracula out of there as fast as I can. So I need to pick a location that I want him to travel to. And it has to connect by these brown lines to Paris. So those are my choices. I need to get out of there into one of those connecting cities. Well, the first thing we're going to do, like I said, this is slightly different from the start of the game in the multiplayer setup, but it's pretty close. We're going to start with Dracula's turn sequence. And the first thing we do is advance the day-night track clockwise 1 space. That's right up here. The game starts at dawn, and Dracula is allowed to advance that. So supposedly on the very first turn of the game that doesn't advance, but in this little solo venture, maybe we'll go ahead and advance that up to noon. So we're just kind of following the regular turn format now. So what happens next is the movement phase. We must move by road or sea. Dracula is a proud and kind of old-fashioned type, as you can imagine, so he refuses to travel by train. So he can go by the road, or he can travel by sea. Traveling by sea does weaken him, however, so he wants to be careful about doing too much or an extended sea trip. So we need to pick out a location. Alright, I've chosen to move Dracula to Strasbourg, over here in this direction along this road. And I'm going to use a red bead to indicate that's where he is. The red bead means that the players don't know that or the hunters don't know that he's traveled into that area. As soon as they discover part of his trail, I'm going to change it over to green. So they don't know that he's been there, but that's where he is now. Let's see what else he can do on his turn. After he's moved, he can take an action. He can do the following 3 things in order. He can attack or place an encounter. So if he's in a city with a hunter, he attacks them. Otherwise, he places an encounter. So I showed this before, I think in the previous video, that we have these different event tiles. So we can choose one of these, and it's going to go, when you're playing the regular game, it goes on the back of this card. So you kind of turn it over like this, and you put it on the back of the card this way. We're going to keep the cards face up because I'm just playing this solo. And I'm going to put the tile face up too. So when a hunter gets there, they're going to have to deal with one of these. So I guess I just picked this up at random. Why don't we go ahead and use that one? We'll see what it does, what happens when it's triggered when somebody gets on it. So we're going to put that on the track up here. So we've moved Paris down to the left, and we have his current location there with the encounter tile on it. Going back to the card, maturing encounters. If a card fell off your trail, so if it went all the way down the track here, all the way to the end, and was pushed off the side, then it would give me a chance to mature it, which I think it makes it stronger. At the very end of this, since I have nothing to mature right now, we refill our encounter hand. And I have this cup here with the different tiles inside. I'm just going to draw one at random, and looks like we've got maybe one of the gypsies. We're going to put that over here, and we can choose from that later. So that's our hand of 5. Alright, that should finish Dracula's first turn. It's pretty close to the regular multiplayer game, but just a couple of things were different, such as the hunters knowing Dracula's last location, and then we advance the timer. What I have in mind is it gives the heroes somewhere to just run to immediately, kind of speeding up the action, forcing Dracula to maybe have an encounter before he normally would, and then speeding up the daytime, the counter, just by one space. Maybe that would help advance the game just a little faster, because I think once a day passes, some other things come into play. It's been a while since I've played, so we're just trying to move things along. So we're going to go to the hunters now. Let's go to the first one. Well, let's take a look at our first hunter. Here's his character card. His name, a bit odd to pronounce, at least in my opinion. Lord Godalming. Basically, what you need to know about this guy was he was involved in the final struggle against Dracula in the original story. He worked alongside Dr. Seward, and they kept the gypsy underlings covered with their Winchesters. So he was probably in cover, shooting his rifle to keep back some of Dracula's minions. This gave Harker and Morris time to deal with the Count themselves. Why was he involved? Well, he was in love with Lucy. And Lucy was a pretty young thing that Dracula kind of seduced and eventually turned her into a vampire, and then she was later killed. So Lucy was the love of his life. He is a wealthy, powerful man, and I think he does have a family now, but he's out for revenge. He's never forgotten what's happened. And now, knowing that Dracula is back, he wants to see him put down finally. So this guy is pretty strong. He's going to go first. That's what this number means here. And he starts the game with the most hit points of anybody, I think. He's got 12. And then you see these slots on the top and on the bottom. He can carry 3 event cards, and down here 3 item cards. Any more than that and he'll have to discard. He's got an ability called Strong Body, and this is great when he's in combat with both, let's see, when he's battling an agent. So when he's battling one of Dracula's minions, he's going to be rolling both hunter dice. That means he's going to be rolling 2 dice and keeping the best one. So that's nice. Wealth. When he wants to take a train, when he needs to roll a train die, let's say he rolls this and he gets one of the worst results. He's got a lot of money, either through bribes or finding other connections. He can re-roll this train die, and he has to keep the second roll. So those are his special abilities. Let me think. It's been a while. Bitten. I think if he becomes bitten by Dracula, I can't remember. It's going to do something. It could kill him, but anyway, that is a space for a token, a bite mark token. We'll kind of look at that rule when it happens, but this is the first guy. Let's see what he's going to do. We start with hunter number 1, Lord Godalming, down here in Madrid. I'm going to pull back here so you can see the board. He is aware of Dracula's last known location, which was Paris. So he's going to try to get there as quickly as he can. And to do that, we need to go to the hunter turn sequence. Let's take a look and see what the hunters do. The first thing they can do is spend resolve. Resolve is something that will add up on a track down here over time. Don't have any resolve right now. Movement, that's what we want. By road, sea, or rail. Well, he's going to choose the railroad. And you can see on the board here we've got some railroad in yellow and some in white. The white ones are better, so if you roll this result, you can move 3 cities on the white railroad, but only 2 on the yellow. So that's what he's going to try to do, is make a move toward Paris. So let's roll this die. He's got a 0. That's no good. Let's see, he has a special ability that will allow him to re-roll. Let's do that. He gets a 1. Not the best roll, so he can move 1 space, any of these spaces. Now, if he didn't know where Dracula was, I'm thinking of making his movement somewhat random. Maybe not just totally random, because I don't want to spend a game with him just going like this and this and this and this and this. That's silly. So a basic sense of direction, but not precise movement. But right now he can move specifically toward Paris. He knows he needs to go there. So this is kind of how I'm working this solo. So moving toward Paris, common sense move is he's going to go right here. His character's leaning forward a little bit, or his mini. Alright, he is in a city that, according to the map here, is small. And how do we know it's small? It just depends on kind of the shape. If it's in a big box here, it's a large city, and if it's kind of turned on its end, it is a smaller city, and he's in a smaller city. So once he's there, he gets a choice of some actions. He can search, and if there's no encounter there, then he gets to choose one of the following. He can rest, resupply, or trade. He's going to go with resupply because he just doesn't have very much right now. So in a small city, all he can do is draw an event card. So over here is the event deck. And this is mixed with Hunter cards and Dracula cards. This is a Dracula card on top. So obviously we're not going to draw from the top because we know that's a bad card. So what you do is you draw from the bottom, and you don't know if it's good for the Hunter or bad. And he's drawn a card that is good for the Hunters. And the card says newspaper reports. The oldest, leftmost unrevealed location in Dracula's trail is revealed, unless it is Dracula's current location. Alright, this is this a play immediately? Yes, it is. This is kind of a bad one to draw so soon in the game, but great when you pull it out later. So since the next spot is Dracula's current location, this doesn't help. So basically this card would go into the discard pile because they already know Paris, and the next location is where Dracula is, so that's just going to help them too much. So what we'll do here is we'll just say, alright, maybe the newspapers, this is adding our little narrative to the game, maybe it was the newspapers' reports that told the Hunters that he was in Paris. So we'll kind of call that a wash. We've given them an advantage here in Paris, knowing that he was there last, but that card, strictly by the game rules, would be just a waste. But it kind of balances out. They know that he's been in Paris, so we will move on from there.